لبيك يا حسين 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 لبيك
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صل على محمد أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على الفلاح هيا على خير العمل هيا على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم Inshallah we shall begin our salat of Zuhr and thereafter the Asr. Just to remind my brothers have our lines. The women are behind us. There is connection for everyone inshallah. And we can do sajda on the grass. There is no problem. And therefore those who do not have the sajda guide, it's fine to do it on the grass. Not on the floor of course, just on the grass. فلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه إلهي قد أتاك عبدك المسيء أنت المحسن وأنا المسيء يا محسن فتجاوز النبي يا زلمة الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد يا لطيف ارحم أبوك الضعيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'minin, we have been requested that we remain seated after the dua of Asr before we are given further instructions, inshallah. Allahumma salli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We also make salutations and seek for peace and prosperity for all humanity. Today, Mu'minin, we are gathered here to represent one of the three Abrahamic faiths. The faiths that started from Abraham alayhi salam, whom we call Ibrahim alayhi salam, came to Moses alayhi salam, who is Musa in our Quran, and then came to Isa alayhi salam, which is Jesus, peace be upon them all, and then finally ended with the last of all the prophets, which is Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, who brought justice, who brought peace, who removed ignorance from all humanity. And it is because of this that Deen of Abraham was taken forward and to its final epic. See us today that we are from all colors and all nationalities, south, north, east, west. We are all amongst us here. There are no boundaries, there are no borders. When we represent Hussein, the grandson of Ali, the grandson of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Inshallah, we shall be explaining more during our procession from here. And before we start moving, the organizers would like to tell us a few things on how the whole program is going to be. So let us please bear with them and be with them, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Brother Raza Jan. Just a couple of quick announcements. This is our first time doing this. Inshallah, we'll have many more. Please follow the rules and etiquettes we spell out. Anyone you see with a green vest is a volunteer. If you have any questions, please see one of the volunteers. Please stay close to the Juloos procession line. We have a big crowd. We're already over 300. We're going to walk around the lake. This is Lake Yola. We're going to do one lap. It's 0.9 miles in diameter, okay? It's about a 45-minute walk at the pace we're going. We should be back here at the amphitheater 2:45 to 3 p.m. for speeches. Speeches will be followed by recitation of ziyarat, and we have some tabarruk for all of our attendees. We have promotional material, different types. I have some in my hand. The volunteers will be distributing to onlookers and pedestrians. If you would like to be a volunteer and pass these out, come see me after announcements are over. I'll be over to the side over here. Again, please stay close to the Juloos. Couple other announcements. Keep your belongings close to you. This is an open area in a public setting. Please don't leave anything behind. On that note, please do not litter. We are representing Islam in a public environment. We have to put on our best face. Please make sure you're not littering. Please do not disengage from the walk. Stay close. Show unity amongst our communities. Show our strength. Please remember these things.
لو قطعوا أرجلنا واليدين فيك زحفا سيدي يا حسين. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. They can cut my arms and my legs. They can take everything that I have. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come crawling to you, every day it cuts me inside. I'm so very far from your side. I would give away these eyes just to catch a glimpse of your shrine. If I have to cross the seas and every desert in between, I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. They can cut my arms and my legs, they can take everything that I have. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come.
لبيك يا حسين 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 لبيك يا حسين. Brothers and sisters, let us take this opportunity to remember the right that we have, the peaceful, free right to assembly that we have gathered here to commemorate and raise awareness about the tragedy and the massacre of Karbala, a tragedy that took place 1400 years ago, where a man stood for justice, who stood for peace, who stood against tyranny, and called out before Patrick Henry, and he called out that give me liberty or give me death. We are here to commemorate Karbala. We are here to commemorate that tragedy and express our right to freedom of speech.
My family and friend, and my life's coming to an end. If I lose my feet and hands, if I can no longer stand, if I stumbled 1,000 times, if the journey's 1,000 miles, I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. They can cut my arms and my legs, they can take everything that I have. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. You just have to look at this world, see your lovers are tortured and hurt. They can use their tanks and their guns. We will stand together as one. They can tear us limb from limb, but our souls will save from within. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come crawling to you, Hussein.
You said with a heart so scarred, Hal min nasiriyan surna, gave this call. I will come crawling to you, Hussein. I will come crawling. My flashes pass so fast. I pray that in my final gasp
आए मिल गए या शहीदो या मजलूम सारला या सारतुल हुसैन या शहीदो या मजलूम तू जिधर है उस तरफ हक की राह या हुसैन मिल गई काबे को सजदा का या हुसैन आए मिल गई काबे को सजदा का सर जो नेज़े पर उठा है तेरा या शहीदो या मजलूम सारला या सारतुल हुसैन या शहीदो या मजलूम सारला या सारतुल या शहीदो या मजलूम मुर्तजिज़ ज़ैनब के पास आ गया या हुसैन आखिरी लम्हे में शाहे खुदा या हुसैन हाय आखिरी लम्हे में शाहे खुदा को भरी आंखों से क्या कह दिया या शहीदो या मजलूम सारला या सारतुल या शहीदो या मजलूम सारला या सारतुल لبيك يا لبيك يا لبيك يا لبيك يا حسين 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 لبيك يا Hussein is a call for justice, it's a call for peace, it's a call for humanity to gather and go against oppression, go against tyranny, go against injustice wherever it may be, and against whoever it may be. We are commemorating a man who stood for social justice and the rights of others and the rights of everyone. We call out today, لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين Today we gather to commemorate Imam al-Hussein, a man who stood alone on the plains of Karbala. He stood alone standing for justice. He stood alone standing against oppression, standing against tyranny. And he stood and he fought for justice and he was massacred. He was massacred along with his family. And we are here to call for justice. We are here to call for mankind to awaken. لبيك يا حسين 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 نار حيدري نار حيدري نار حيدري لبيك يا حسين
Remember to keep those signs up high, guys.
Oh my mom, oh my mom, Zain al-Abidin, oh my mom, Zain al-Abidin. Jihad, you saw your head on fear, your mother's bareheaded and in feet.
sister was treated so severe that blood was pouring down from her ear. And you were so brave that you spoke. And in that courtyard the world awoke. Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin. Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin. Oh Sajjad, with quaking hands, how you dug a small grave, a resting place for Sakina to lay. Her shroud was her shirt, covered in blood stains, till end of time, that is how she will stay. Until today, she's so far from home. The prison is dark and she's alone. Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin. Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin. Oh Sajjad, for 40 long years you kept on weeping, 'cause in your mind Sean kept on repeating the lashes you got and all the beating. For all these feelings there is no healing. Those memories always will be raw of what you heard, felt, and what you saw. Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin. Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin. Oh Sajjad, upon your deathbed you cried out and said,
Ya Hussein, every place on this earth is whole universe. Remember your name. You're immortalized, 'cause you sacrificed everything that you love for His sake.
Alone, but he stood for truth, he stood for peace, he stood for equality, he stood for justice. Also, he was alone, he stood for the individual, and he was killed in the process. Today we stand with our community, we stand with our greater community, the Florida community, the Orlando community, and we say that we are against the killing of innocent people anywhere they may be. We stand for justice, we stand for peace, we stand for equality wherever it may be. This is the call. Labbaika ya Hussein. Labbaika ya Hussein. Labbaika ya Hussein. I now call on Ali Baba and Samir Jagani to recite one final cry. Labbaika ya Hussein. Labbaika ya Hussein. Labbaika ya Hussein. This cry, Labbaika ya Hussein, is for peace, freedom, justice, and equality.
Worlds apart, I search for the road from me to you, O Hussein. What veils and what worlds exist between myself and Hussein? Worlds between myself and Hussein. Can one who the heart has stolen be worlds apart from his servant? Can one who the heart has stolen be worlds apart from his servant? At this world's end, my eyes search. And yet still worlds apart I stand. Even if worlds your love transcends, I wish when you stood there alone, my hand to you I could extend.
are not rescued by you.
Whenever you feel
Such a burden, leave worlds apart from its servants. Can one know that heart has stolen? Leave worlds apart from its servants. لبيك يا حسين
لبيك يا حسين
لبيك يا حسين
لبيك يا حسين
لبيك يا حسين. This cry that you're hearing, Labbaika Ya Hussein, is a cry commemorating Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein, who stood on the plains of Karbala, who stood alone, but he stood for justice, he stood for peace, he stood for equality, he stood for tranquility, and he stood against tyranny, he stood against oppression, he stood for a society that was peaceful, and he stood up to the terrorists of his time. This is us who have gathered today to say that we are against all those who may kill anyone unjustly in this world today. This is our cry, and this is the meaning of Labbaika Ya Hussein! Labbaika Ya Hussein! Labbaika Ya Hussein! Labbaika Ya Hussein!
Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
Our lives are dark and our hearts are broken. Now is the time for your intervention. There are no choices left, there is no option, there is no hope left. You are the chosen. Our souls are dying whilst we are still alive. How can we go on? How can we now survive? We're waiting for that time when you will arrive, so that religion and faith can be revived. The world's become false, please come and make it true. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
The poor are dying, the tears are flowing. They have lost everything, their fears are growing. The world is standing by, though it is knowing the persecution that they are facing. Wherever we look, there is just bloodshed. There is no love left, not even a shred. Now all around the world, the evil has spread. The hearts are beating, inside they are dead. There's no sincerity, the good are but a few. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
We've lost our way like a boat without a sail. The smallest winds make this faith of ours sway. Our sins are countless, we're filled up with hate. There is no honesty, no love to convey. How can we say that for you we're ready? We've lost perspective of all reality. The essence of life we fail to see. We're not content, we've succumbed to our greed. Our faith is losing out, what shall we now do? Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
must be falling, the lovers of Hussein.
We invite anyone at the Lake Yola area park right now to join our event. Grab a seat. Listen about the history of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Listen about the movement of Imam Hussein, the movement of justice, the movement that stood against oppression and tyranny. We invite you to come join us and learn about his movement.
Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Peace and salutations of God be upon Prophet Muhammad and his progeny, Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. My honorary guests and speakers, people of Orlando, brothers and sisters, peace and blessings be with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Who is Hussein? Why does Hussein's legacy inspire and give hope to millions around the world today? Why does his message beat in the hearts of millions and ignites a fire in every man and woman who wants to take a stand against justice, for justice? Let me tell you about Hussein. Raised by his grandfather, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Hussein was known for his integrity, his generosity, and his blindness to color and social class. He came from a family famed for their equality, for their love and compassion. It was for this reason that people were drawn to Hussein and his family. Hussein also lived at the time of an oppressive ruler. It was a period of corruption, of tyranny, where the sense of right and wrong was diminishing. He refused to endorse the actions of the oppressive regime, and he wanted to remain steadfast in preserving the true version of Islam. The timeless words of his grandfather echoed in his heart. The greatest stand is to speak the word of truth in the face of a tyrant. Hussein knew what he had to do. And it's because Hussein gave up everything he had near and dear to him, including his life, for the greater good and for the good of those around him, that his epic legacy continues to inspire millions around the world today. Nelson Mandela writes in his book, "I spent more than 20 years in prison. Then on one night, I decided to surrender. Surrender by signing all the terms and conditions of government. But suddenly, I thought about Hussein. I thought about Hussein and the Karbala movement, and Hussein gave me strength to stand for right of freedom and liberation, and I did. That is monumental. It's life-changing." This Karbala movement that Nelson Mandela refers to, it was a clear picture of a struggle between two individual and theological schools of thought whose flames started with the advent of mankind, and sadly these flames, they have not been put out today. This struggle was a continuation of the struggle that all the prophets performed, from Prophet Adam to Prophet Noah to Prophet Abraham, Prophet Jacob, Prophet Joseph, Prophet Moses, Prophet Jesus, and all the other prophets until the last and final prophet, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon all of them. Salawat. This is a struggle that all the people seeking positive reform in the universe will continue to have. It's the struggle of good versus evil, truth versus falsehood, the virtuous versus the wicked. The importance of the history of Hussein's life, which has turned into the most tragic epic of human history, is not just because waves of the strongest human emotions are evoked every year on his death anniversary, but rather because there is nothing in his movement other than pure devotion to his creator and his humanistic qualities. As Edward Gibbon, an English historian and parliament member, once said, in a distant age and climate, the tragic scene of Hussein will awaken the sympathy of the coldest reader. And Antoine Barra, a Christian writer, says, no battle in the modern and past history of mankind has earned more sympathy and admiration, as well as provided more lessons than the martyrdom of Hussein in the Battle of Karbala. As a revolutionary leader who made the ultimate sacrifice for social justice, Hussein's stand is an example of how every one of us can inspire hope in a world of desperation and despair, regardless of color, creed, or religion. We need to continue that stand against injustice, against oppression, and stand with truth and morality. And that is why we're here today, to keep that flame alive and spread the message of Hussein and all the Imams and the Prophets. Now we are fortunate to have four distinguished speakers amongst us today to speak to the lessons of Karbala. We also have a couple of poetry reciters whom I will call in between the speakers. First, I'd like to call up Sheikh Vinay. Sheikh Vinay serves the Toronto community as an educator in both the community and university environment. He has completed a bachelor's and master's in Islamic studies. He's currently a PhD candidate and graduate fellow in the Department of Religious Studies at McMaster University. And during his years, he has attended various traditional hawzas, a Shia institute of higher learning in London, in Najaf and Damascus. He has published various academic articles and was previously a guest lecturer of Harvard University. Sheikh Vinay will talk about Imam Hussein and justice. Please join me in welcoming him with a loud salawat.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I was asked about the subject that I was going to speak about today, and I thought of justice as being the theme. But instead of focusing the story of Karbala alone, as many of us know the details of that story, I want to briefly discuss the religious and spiritually grounded position of Imam al-Hussein as based on the life of the Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen. That we know in the Quran, as Allah tells us, that in the Messenger of Allah is the best example. So what were the examples that inspired the life of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam in order to take that final stand in Karbala? As I believe, he was humbly following in the cherished footsteps of his grandfather, the Messenger of Allah, and his father Imam Ali. Their every breath, their every step, their every word was a manifestation of justice, fair play in the world, and humility before God. If there was one thing they could not sit back and swallow, it was the recognition and pledge of allegiance to an unjust leader. A leader who treats the public treasury as his personal bank account, a leader who tramples over the dignity of the citizens he swore to protect, a leader who pounces on the weak and needy as a lion does over its prey. After all, the miracle of the Quran and the recipient of its revelation, the Messenger of God, was such that it stood tall in the midst of the injustice and barbarism of Meccan society. It was and continues to be a ray of hope and promise. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and his family made the glimmer of hope a reality, such that within a period of 20 or so years, as the Messenger of God and the recipient of the revelation, he brought about an entirely new spiritual and social order, to which the annals of history of Muslim and non-Muslim provenance have dedicated thousands of pages in an effort to not only document, but also in an effort to comprehend this spiritual and philosophical foundations of this new and promising godly sisterhood and brotherhood. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and his family established a new government in the city of Medina, built upon the foundations of a common humanity, mercy, compassion, and servitude to God. And nothing else as revealed to him by God in the Quran. I will now give two examples, one from the life of the Prophet and one from the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The following verse in the Quran, which is revealed with regards to an instance that occurred in the life of the Prophet, states the following: Hold fast to the rope of Allah, اعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا. Hold fast to the rope of Allah together and do not separate from one another. Recall the blessing of God which has been bestowed upon you. For you, O Muslims, were enemies, and He, God, brought your hearts together. And as a result of His blessings, He made you into a brotherhood. The central message of this verse is that God, the hand of the Prophet, that God, through the hand of the Prophet Muhammad, executed an incredible social and moral revolution in the Arabian Peninsula, such that the basis of brotherhood, morality, and the treatment of one another was a recognition of God, a recognition that everyone has someone greater to answer to, that everyone has a final day where they have to account for the things that they have done. It was a recognition that the days of petty animalistic feuds were over. A new brotherhood has been founded upon a profound sense of sobriety before God, and most importantly, a moral and ethical vision which is governed by the revelation of the Quran. This was a society that the Prophet founded, in which the needy, the weak, the black, the white, the poor, the rich, the Arab, the non-Arab were given their due sense of humanity and recognition as implemented by the Quran and the Prophet himself. Imam al-Hussein, in his every breath, every stride, and in his every word, manifested this prophetic tradition of fair play and humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and compassion before humanity. This can never be lost from the minds who wish to understand the tragic yet momentous events on the sands of Karbala. The second and most profound example of godly justice and fair play is in the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi afdal salatu wassalam, who was revered by all Muslims alike today. Sunni and Shia, Sufi, Ismaili, all Muslims revere him either as a fourth caliph or the first Imam. Imam Ali was elected as a leader of Muslims by popular demand. However, after he became the leader, a tricky situation arose. And this is extremely important. It is cited by Tabari that this particular situation arose. Imam Ali had now become the leader, but he was posed with a predicament, which was, what was he to do with the governors that already existed in the Muslim world? What was he to do with the religiously and morally crooked governors that were appointed by the person before him? What was he to do? At this point, Ibn Abbas, the friend of Imam Ali, approaches him. And he tells him, Ali, do not rock the boat for now. Leave people where they are. Don't remove the governor of Syria from power, the governor of Sham. For if you leave them where they are people of this world and they won't cause problems for you. But if you remove them from power, they will cause an uprising against you, and they will begin to blame the murder of the previous caliph upon you. So the stakes were very high. What was Amir al-Mu'mineen to do? He says, "Amma ma dhakarta min iqrarihim." He says, as for what you have mentioned with regards to keeping them where they are, in the interest of political realities, shall we say. He said, as for what you have mentioned regarding keeping the already appointed governors where they are, he says, by God, I don't argue that this is the best for the purpose of this world. في عاجل الدنيا لإصلاحها, and for keeping order in this world. However, he said, keeping in mind everything that you have said, I am compelled by the truth of what I know regarding the appointments of my predecessor For by Allah, I shall never delegate the authority of governance to any one of them. Because the truth, ma'arifatul haqq, the recognition of the truth, pushed him, compelled him to not accept the status quo. And thus he chose to remove them from power. And the removal of these individuals from power set into course a series of events which would lead up again to Karbala. We don't of course have time to go into all of this. But my brothers and sisters, the Prophet Muhammad, Imam Ali and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and the righteous among the supporters stood for this kind of justice. That is the type of justice which cannot be bought and sold with the allure of temporary or superficial worldly comfort. The kind of justice implemented with the goal of seeking the pleasure of God in this life and the hereafter. The pleasure of God is directed by the moral and ethical vision of the Quran. And I hinted to that with one verse. And the tradition of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and the chosen among his descendants. On this note, God in the Holy Quran issues the following command. I will just end with this. O humankind, have a consciousness, a deep-seated recognition of your Lord, who created you from a single soul, that of Adam, and from its partner. And from this pair, an abundance of men and women were created. Meaning the statement of God is a call to humanity to come to the acceptance that they have been created. They have been created by their Lord, and this is a sober recognition that I come from somewhere and that I am accountable to someone above me. Despite our language, our race, our culture, or even religion, this Quranic verse calls upon humanity first and foremost to the recognition that they have been created and to remember that God is above them. And with this sober humility before God, the intention is to keep humankind grounded and instill within a sense of universal compassion and universal justice. It is for this reason that in the absence of this much needed sobriety, human beings of various delusionary religious persuasions have the potential to commit the most vile acts of violence. Right, as we read in the news, between 2014 to now, 35,000 people have been murdered in Iraq from acts of terrorism. It is for this reason that Imam Ali warns his future governor against the perpetration of injustice by telling him, "La tansawanna nafsik li harbillah." He tells Malik al-Ashtar, "Do not set yourself up to go to war with God." Imam al-Hussein was aware of the gravity of this situation, of his time, and he could not sit idly as our humanity gifted to us by God was trampled upon. And this is, for me, one of the messages of Imam al-Hussein. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tayyibin tahirin.
Thank you, Sheikh Vinay. At this time, I'd like to call Azra Danji for a spoken word poetry. Azra, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This spoken word poetry is in honor of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We think we know our enemies, but more often than not, we are the enemies. We pretend, we covet, we lie, we stay silent when some acts, they demand our voice. We think we know oppression, but more often than not, we are the oppressors. We deny, we hide, we run, we stay blind when some acts demand our sight. Humanity evolves with time, changing like clockwork. But is it just me? Or are we turning the clocks back? Humanity prides itself over being free-willed. But the truth is, we couldn't be more bound by what we think liberates us. So let's invest in reflections and arrive at realizations. We love peace, but yet shy away from being called Muslim. We love Jesus, but have forgotten kindness. We strive for equality, yet discriminate against women. We seek solace in nature, yet ruin the environment. We hide our vices in the night, forgetting that's when the moon illuminates it with its light. We want freedom, but don't use what we do have, our voice. But what if we did? A voice that's united, unbiased, and fair. Our voice could be a shelter to make this world habitable, because right now, we live in houses of fear with roofs of uncertainty. Our voice could question the norm, because more times than not, the norm takes an unjust form. If freedom appears locked in a box, let our voice be its key. Let our voice be firm, but also let it tremble. Because whoever told you courage was easy probably didn't know what it meant to stand up when everyone's weighing you down. Let our voice be loud, but also allow it to be silenced, because silence is a whole new language with a mind of its own. Silence allows you to hear to the words of your soul, the heart beating in your chest. Silence allows you to listen to the wind, carrying the sounds of the oppressed crying in the night. Silence fills a void where words cannot be. We pride ourselves on being Husseini, but we've forgotten what sacrifice means anymore. It is knowing that the sun goes down each day so the moon can come up. It is embracing diversity. It is using our voice when we have to. It is challenging what comforts us. It is big, it is small, it is what you make it, so the world can be a better place with you and I in it. So ask me what I see around me, and I will tell you about oppression, cruelty, and injustice. But ask me to accept it, and I won't. Because behind every oppression, there is a lesson. And behind every tear, a meaning. My life will be about finding that with my voice, with my silence, and with those who've taught me that lives may end, but greatness lives on. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Azra. At this time, I'd like to call upon Sheikh Syed Ali Kulaini. Sheikh Kulaini recently moved to Tampa. He spent 9 years in Hausa from Atlanta to Qum. And he comes from a Sunni background, so that's an interesting profile on Sheikh Kulaini. And he's going to be talking about Imam Hussein's mission. Can we please welcome him with a loud salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وخاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين سيد الأولين والآخرين شافع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين محمد We see that there's a lot of people that have different missions in life. Some missions are greater than others. Some missions impact others far greater than others. But when we look at the mission of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we see this mission is just not for the Muslim, but also this mission was out for those who do not believe in Islam. Because we realize that the oppressed people all over the world understand this message of Imam Hussein. This message of tyranny in which someone comes and tries to take everything away from a person. We all understand this. So when you come to people and you tell them about the message of Imam Hussein, they relate to this message. They understand this message. It feels, they can feel it all inside of their heart, this message. I was saying earlier before, even those who are considered to be tyrants, they understand about oppression. Because they feel that if someone is trying to take their power away from them, that they are being oppressed. So those from the top all the way to the bottom understand what is this oppression. But the main thing in which the Imam was trying to teach us, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, is that sacrifice. We hear all throughout our life, we should sacrifice. Some people sacrifice for all the wrong things. But the best sacrifice in which we could always do is the sacrifice for Allah Azza wa Jalla. This is the best sacrifice. This is the sacrifice that will last forever. As we see those who sacrifice for all the wrong things, they only get the benefit for that moment. But when you sacrifice for Allah Azza wa Jalla, we see that this sacrifice will live forever. We see the sacrifice of which Imam Hussein alayhi salam wasn't just then for that time. It's also for this time. It is also for the time coming after this time. Because this sacrifice is a great sacrifice. That's what the Imam did. He showed us the sacrifice. He showed us that Allah Azza wa Jalla is greater than any other sacrifice we have to go through. He showed us that Islam is better than us. Because a lot of times we feel that Islam is not better than us. We're better than Islam, right? So we do. We feel we cannot sacrifice for Islam. We feel we can't sacrifice for anything else but this worldly thing. But the message of Imam Hussein was about sacrifice and showing us what is the correct way to sacrifice. These sacrifices, which we look at from the Imam, it's a beautiful thing. Because he showed many people this great example of sacrifice. He showed us that when you sacrifice, the name of Imam Hussein can live forever. Those who sacrifice women, of course, right? Here it is, 1,400 years. Oh, I have one more minute. SubhanAllah. That'd be scared for me. I thought I had to be up for 15 minutes. Please, loud salawat. Allah. With my short time, we should think about what we are sacrificing for. And if it's not for Allah, then maybe we should rethink our sacrifice.
Thank you, Sheikh Juloos. At this time, I'd like to call upon Muhammad Abbas Kareem for poetry recitation. Muhammad Wali Muhammad Salawat.
ومحمد وآل محمد صلوات. Before I begin, I'd like to take the permission of my respected ulama. I'm going to recite a piece of poetry in English, and as a request if you can recite with me. It's a very simple chorus. The chorus is in Arabic and in English, so it goes Abad wallah ya Zahra ma ninsa Husayna. By Allah, O Zahra, we will never forget Hussein. One more loud salawat, please. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. 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 We will never forget Hussein. We will never forget Hussein. Hussein. Together. We will never forget Hussein. We will never forget Hussein. Louder. We will never forget. Voices should be heard in Karbala. We will never forget Hussein. We will never forget. By the stars and how they are fixed, unlike the tears we cry, we'll continue to lament him long after we all die. Long after we all die, we will never forget Hussein. We will never. Hussein's day is not a day, his day makes the year sway. And if love can't take away breath, his love takes souls away. His love takes souls away. The whole world we can forget, yet our eyes shall remain wet. The whole world can end, and yet his sun shall never set. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. We will never forget Hussein. We will never. Drowning, we were saved by him, our rock of salvation. God placed tears of Hussein within our creation, within our creation. And so towards him we're drawn, his dome upon our eyes drawn. The Lord had created the dawn, so that for him we mourn. Together. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. We will never forget Hussein. We will never. We won't forget Hussein's wounds, the 1700, nor shall his 72 be lost for a second, be lost for a second. And the 6-month-old infant, and the scorched and the burning tent, against the face of tyrants, for them all we lament. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. We will never forget. Louder. Forget Hussein. Remember, our voices should not just be heard around this park. The whole world should hear this. We will never forget Hussein. We will never. MashaAllah. If our legs were taken away, to your grave we would crawl. If our legs were taken away, to your grave we would crawl. Your grave became a Kaaba that even the stars circle, that even the stars circle. The woods from which you would ache, a house of God they would make, for God's pleasure and your sake. We'd come crying labbaik. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهرة ما ننسى حسينا. لبيك يا حسين لبيك.
لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين. محمد وآل محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Thank you, Brother Muhammad Abbas. At this time, I'd like to call upon Sister Shahnaz Alidina. Sister Alidina is an educator in pursuing a doctoral degree in language, culture, and teaching at York University in Toronto. Sister Shahnaz has a passion for understanding the Quran and is keen to see girls and women further themselves through education. She has been working with women on Quran and Islamic teachings and is also working on issues of literacy and cultural training. Sister Shahnaz will talk to us about the role of women in Karbala. Please join me in welcoming her with a loud salawat.
My dear scholars, sisters, brothers in Islam and in humanity, Salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all. To understand the role of women in Karbala, it is important to understand what brought the women to Karbala. In his will to his brother Muhammad al-Hanafiya, Imam al-Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, said, I have not risen to spread evil or to show off, nor for spreading immorality or oppression. I have left for the reform of my grandfather's ummah, Islah fi ummati jaddi. And I desire to propagate the religion and forbid against evil, thus following the footsteps of my grandfather, the Prophet Rasulullah, and my father Ali ibn Abi Talib. The presence of women in Karbala in itself makes a statement that Imam al-Hussein did not go to wage a war. For who would take women and children to the battlefield? Their presence was an indication that Imam did not set out to fight. And any suggestion that Karbala was a battle between two leaders should be understood that if this was a civil war, then the women and children would not have been part of this. In the history of Islam and in humanity, we do not come across women who are not in combat joining men in the battlefield, especially with newborn children. The women in Karbala were a symbol to substantiate Imam Hussein's intention of peace and reform for humanity. These women showed us what servitude to the Imam, or to the leader, was all about. They were the first ones who responded to the call of Imam when he shouted, "Is there anyone to help me in my cause?" They responded in giving up everything they had of their families to protect the grandson of the Prophet. And after that, they protected Ali Zainul Abidin, the next Imam, through their imprisonment by supporting him as silent, brave warriors. They became the pillars of strength for each other in supporting the cause of truth. These women endured hardships. It was not customary in Islam to harm women and children during war. The Prophet of Islam made this very clear when he conquered Mecca, that no one was to plunder any property, cut any trees, harm any women or children. This is the fundamental ethics of Islamic governance. These form basic human principles. However, when we look at the force of Yazid and the likes of Yazid till today, they use this tactic of war in targeting women and children. They were not any ordinary women. They were women from the family of the Prophet of God. The family where the Prophet, who struggled all his life to bring the message of Allah and kept reminding his ummah that Hussein is part of me and I am from Hussein. He kept telling the ummah that Al-Hassan and Hussein were the youths of paradise. Did the ummah not recognize Hussein? Or were they so much entrenched with hunger of power that they forgot who Hussein was? It was not possible for Imam al-Hussein to let them forget, because he kept reminding them of this relationship with the Holy Prophet. The women took up this challenge, and they would not let the killing of this dear grandson go quietly. If Imam Hussein and his family would have been killed and left in the desert with no one from his family to witness this, it is possible that this incident would have been covered up. The women who were first-hand witnesses of this massacre made sure that the incident of Karbala and the sacrifice of Imam Hussein was not going to be buried in the sands of Karbala and by the rivers of Euphrates. It was going to travel from Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Damascus and back to Medina. From city to city they lamented and narrated their story and raised awareness how the Ummah had treated the grandson of the Holy Prophet. They jolted people from their slumber and forced their conscience to seek the truth. They exported it from Karbala to Kufa, to Sham, and then to the world. They became the social media of the time. The women began a tradition of mourning and that exploded the message globally as a way of passing on the message of Imam al-Hussein. These women showed great leadership qualities, being led by the granddaughter of the Holy Prophet, Lady Zainab, in their mission. The women followed what Lady Zainab instructed them to do. One of the roles they undertook was to care for the children and orphans of the war, of the family of the Prophet after Karbala. Here one would ask, did these women fear the same fate as Hussein of being killed? Yes, they were threatened with death. Yazid threatened Lady Zainab, but she wasn't intimidated by his threats, saying martyrdom was in their blood. They would do anything to uphold the religion of their grandfather, the message of Allah. The women's struggles and trials made them stronger, as nothing could surpass the tragedy they had witnessed in Karbala. These women formed the house of the Holy Prophet, and they did not relent to threats from Yazid. They openly challenged Yazid in a manner that left Yazid speechless. In the court of Damascus, Lady Zainab, the granddaughter of the Prophet, in response to Yazid's bickering of death of Imam al-Hussein, delivered a sermon that left the men of the court speechless. It was uncustomary for women to speak against men, leave alone challenge men openly. Lady Zainab did not only challenge Yazid, her response was quoted with references from the Holy Quran, which showed her extensive knowledge and expertise in extrapolating verses to respond to the situation in hand. She reminded the people of her father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, who was known for his knowledge and oratory power. In doing so, Lady Zainab showed the value of knowledge that her grandfather encouraged all Muslims to seek from cradle to grave. The women of Karbala who endured atrocities from the oppressor showed us empowerment. In striving for the cause of truth, nothing can stand in your way. They taught us it is better to die with the truth than letting truth be buried. Anyone who strives for Allah and is killed in the process, he never dies, but continues to live. Allah never allows the voice of those killed in His way to be silenced. Rather, it continues to strive and move the people. Allah says in His holy book, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Never think of those who have been killed in the cause of Allah as dead. Rather, they are alive with their Lord, those who strive in the way of Allah. These women showed us that though stick and stones can break your bones, it cannot diminish the light of the truth that is in your hearts. The women all stood firm in their conviction and never gave up. The women of Karbala become an inspiration for us today. Their strength serves in the cause of truth through sacrifice and persecution, and brings hope to many who still live in persecution today. In the midst of disparity, they offered hope in persevering for the truth and social justice.
The month of Muharram has come round the corner. The month of Muharram has come round the corner, but this year I don't want to be an empty mourner. Enough with my tears being that of a crocodile. Enough with my tears being that of a crocodile, with my actions contradicting his perfect lifestyle.
I'm tired of going to Majlis dressed in black. I'm tired of going to Majlis dressed in black, but then constantly failing him behind his back. Are the Kufans we curse when Hussein they betrayed? Are the Kufans we curse when Hussein they betrayed? Us in disguise when Allah we disobey.
How can I cry for the dry tongue of Sakina? How can I cry for the dry tongue of Sakina when this very tongue of mine indulges in riba? These eyes cry on hearing about the bruises and whips. These eyes cry on hearing about the bruises and whips, yet gone are my tears when so freely my standards slip. How can I cry when Zainab's hijab they took? How can I cry when Zainab's hijab they took, when these same eyes never stick to one look? This daughter of Zahra sacrificed her veil. This daughter of Zahra sacrificed her veil, yet shamelessly to follow in her footsteps I fail.
How can I shed tears for the loss of Akbar? How can I shed tears for the loss of Akbar when I lack the respect that he had for his father? When you called out for help, I know you said my name. When you called out for help, Ya Hussein, I know you said my name. Forgive me, O Hussein, I have put you to shame.
How can I lament when Abbas's limbs they slayed? How can I lament when Abbas's limbs they slayed, when these limbs of mine to this dunya are enslaved? When Abul Fadl fell, Hussein's back was broken. When Abul Fadl fell, Hussein's back was broken. O Shia of Ali, it is time we are awoken. For this year will be different, O Aba Abdullah. For this year will be different, O Aba Abdullah. I am done adding tears to the eyes of Zahra. I said I changed before, but now I have to drive. I said I changed before, but now I have to drive. This empty, failing heart with your love will survive.
Whilst this heart beats Hussein, of hope there's a glimmer. Whilst this heart beats Hussein, of hope there's a glimmer, that I'll never come close to the path of shimmer. For there are two types of people, Hussein or Yazid. For there are two types of people, Hussein or Yazid. Know that we're from Hussein, and that we will forever succeed.
So Hussein, call us back, so we can renew our promise. So Hussein, call us back, so we can renew our promise. We've been lying all our lives, but now we're being honest. Invite us to Karbala, so we can shout out Labbaik. Invite us to Karbala, so we can shout out Labbaik. For this time, we mean it, regardless of what's at stake. Salawat.
Thank you, girls. Our final speaker for this afternoon is Sheikh Azhar Nasser. Sheikh Azhar is currently the Imam of the IEC Center of Orlando, Florida. Born and raised in the West, he has a degree in cultural anthropology from the University of Michigan. After completing his academic studies, he pursued his religious studies in the Hawza of Najaf. He lectures on a wide range of subjects from Islamic theology, classical Islamic history, Islamic ethics, and Quranic exegesis. Sheikh Azhar will talk about injustice of today. Please join me in welcoming him with a loud salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. There are over 300 million people around the world who are mourning Hussein. In every major city around the world, there are gatherings to commemorate the martyrdom of Hussein. From the perspective of an outsider, it would seem that these millions are gathering to commemorate a tragedy that has just taken place. But Hussein was not martyred in 2015. Hussein was martyred 14 centuries ago in the barren deserts of Iraq. And his grandfather, the Holy Prophet, prophesied that the remembrance of Hussein would not die when he said, إِنَّ لِقَتْلِ الْحُسَيْنِ فِي قُلُوبِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ حَرَارَةً لَا تَبْرُدُ أَبَدًا. There is a burning passion in the hearts of the believers for Hussein that will never subside. And this is what we see today. Usually when people die, they are shortly forgotten. People die today and the next day they're forgotten. With Hussein, we're talking about a man who died 14 centuries ago, and every year there are more and more and more people who chant his name in grief. But to understand Hussein, you have to understand the grandfather of Hussein. To set the scene for you, we have to go back to 7th century Arabia. In 570 AD, Arabia was a place of ignorance. Arabia was a place of persecution and injustice. Arabia was a place that was in constant warfare. It was a society that used to bury children alive. It was a society of racism, of ignorance. There were only a handful of people who could read or write. It was a society that used to worship idols, a society that denied women rights. It's a society where the poor did not have a voice, where people were suppressed. And then, in the year 570, a man was born by the name of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man who grew up in that society. A man who at the age of 40 decided to make a major change. A man in 2 short decades who was able to illuminate the darkness of Arab society. A man who was able to enlighten the ignorant people of Arabia. A man who was able to take that barren desert full of nomadic Arabs and build a civilization that would be the engine of the European Renaissance. But Rasulullah, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, recognized that to build civilization, you have to first build a better human being. He became the voice of the poor. He became the voice of the oppressed. When war would take place and he would capture prisoners, he would tell them that if you want me to release you, I want you to teach 10 Muslims how to read and write. He would teach that we have to eliminate an interest-based economy, because an interest-based economy creates a society of the super wealthy and the destitute. He taught Muslims that if you go to sleep at night while your neighbor is hungry, you're not a Muslim. He was the voice of women in Arabia. He was the voice of the animal rights in Arabia. He civilized them in every way a civilization can be civilized. But 50 years after the death of this man, the ignorance returned to Arabia. The racism came back. The cruelty and the oppression prevailed. And there was one man who was witnessing this. This man was Hussein, the grandson of that man, who saw that the Muslims have deviated from the path. that they are now returning to the age of ignorance. Everyone was turning a blind eye, and a supreme sacrifice had to be made. Everyone used to tell Hussein that, listen, it's not worth giving up your life. Just stay in Medina, turn a blind eye, let Yazid rule, he will die and then you can take over later. But Hussein recognized that if he saved his own life, it would mean the death of Islam. It would mean the death of the religion that is the final testament, the religion that is the tradition of Nuh, the tradition of Ibrahim, of Musa and Isa, and therefore Hussein came to realize that the only way to save this only source of divine guidance for humanity, he would have to do something that has never done before. He would have to sacrifice himself along with his family members. You see, brothers and sisters, the sacrifice of Imam Hussein is relevant today, because today we see oppression all over the world. And Imam Hussein, he had two options. He had the option of doing the right thing, and he had the option of doing the easy thing. The easy thing would have been just to stay in Medina, to sign the paper and say, I give allegiance to Yazid. He would have lived a long life. He would have saw his grandchildren grow up. He would have maintained his respect. He would have still been respected. But if he did that, Islam would have died. We would not hear Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. We would not hear Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So a sacrifice had to be made. And today, when we see oppression and injustice, we are also confronted with a decision. We can do the right thing, or we can do the easy thing. And most of the time, people will choose to do the easy thing, because doing the right thing often requires sacrifice, and people are not willing to make sacrifice. When you attend the majalis of Imam Hussein, you believe in political Islam. You cannot attend the majlis of Hussein and be someone who's completely politically illiterate. You cannot mourn for Hussein while you turn a blind eye to the tyrants of our time. Brothers and sisters, Imam Hussein teaches us that to be a Muslim, it doesn't mean that you only pray and fast. It means that you are aware of the affairs of your current times. Today, when you turn on any media outlet, we hear about ISIS. We hear about all of the brutality. We see the beheadings. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam teaches us not to be naive. You have to know who the real oppressor is. When you look at the media, we are told, the United States tells us that ISIS is funded by some governments in the region. What governments are funding these terrorist organizations? What government is funding ISIS? Do you know what governments? Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey. Now a naive person will stop there and say, yes, these are the criminals. But you have to be Husseini in your insight. You have to know the source of the oppression. The last time that I checked, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar do not do anything without the permission of the United States. They do not do anything without getting the green light. And people may say, how can you say this? Only a real patriot can point the finger at our government and say, you are behind the atrocities. You have to be held responsible for the atrocities. You are responsible. You're pointing the finger at the Islamic extremists, but you are behind the funding. We in this country, my dear brothers and sisters, have a moral obligation to hold our elected officials responsible for facilitating the genocide. Don't be fooled. Don't think that Saudi Arabia operates alone. Don't think that Qatar operates alone. Don't think that Turkey operates alone. We in this country, we have a voice. We have to be politically active. Your voice may not be heard, but if the 8 million Muslims in this country come together, we can swing an election. We have power. We cannot be silent. The leader of the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr., what did he say? He said, in the end, it will not be the words of your enemies that you'll remember. It will be the silence of your friends. For batil to prevail, for falsehood and injustice to prevail, the only thing that has to happen is good people remain silent. People remain complacent. Imam Hussein teaches us that it is better to die in dignity than to live in disgrace.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Azhar. Now I'd like to close with two quotes from Mahatma Gandhi, a personality revered the world over for his non-violent philosophy of passive resistance. The progress of Islam does not depend on the use of a sword, but on the supreme sacrifice of Hussein. And I learned from Hussein how to achieve victory while being oppressed. Again, follow me on that chant. Labbaik ya Hussein means we are here, O Hussein. Labbaik ya Hussein. Labbaik ya Hussein. Labbaik ya Hussein. With ziyarat, as salutations to our holy prophet and Imam, I'd like to thank the following. I'd like to thank the city of Orlando, the Orlando Police, for accommodating us today. Thank the honorary speakers and the reciters for the inspirational words of wisdom, the volunteers and organizers that made this event happen today, and the three communities, IEC, JIC, and HIC, for their support. Also, this event has also brought the Tampa and Orlando communities together, which is wonderful to see that unity. And of course, thank you all for coming out today and supporting the cause. As always, we humbly request that if you can give any donations toward this event, that would be greatly appreciated. In fact, there's t-shirts and wristbands that are being sold there towards the Syrian Refugee Initiative, towards the Who is Hussein Initiative, so please give freely. And for donations, you can contact Brother Abbas Merchant, Hussein Jafar, Mohsen Hussein, and all that at the blue tent over there. At this time, if you can stand up and we'll do ziyarat, inshallah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Peace be upon you, O Allah's Messenger, Muhammad son of Abdullah. Peace be upon you, O leader of the faithful, O Ali ibn Abi Talib. Peace be upon you, Khadija the Great. Peace be upon you, Fatima the Zahra, leader of the women of the world. Peace be upon you, Hassan of Ali, son of Ali, the chosen one. Peace be upon you, Hussein, son of Ali, the march at Karbala. Peace be upon you, Ali, son of Hussein, the adornment of worshippers. Peace be upon you, Muhammad, son of Ali, the revealer. Peace be upon you, Jafar, son of Muhammad, the truthful. Peace be upon you, Musa, son of Jafar, the calm. Peace be upon you, Ali, son of Musa, the satisfied. Peace be upon you, Muhammad, son of Ali, the God-fearing. Peace be upon you, Ali, son of Muhammad, the pure. Peace be upon you, Hassan, son of Ali, the warrior. Peace be upon you, O King of the times. Peace be upon you, O Imam of men and jinn. Peace be upon you, O companion of Quran. Keep us under your protection. Peace be upon thee, and the mercy of God and his bounties.
Muhammad salawat.
Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.
Our lives are dark and hearts are broken. Now is the time for your intervention. There are no choices left, there is no option, there is no hope left. You are the chosen. Our souls are dying whilst we are still alive. How can we go on? How can we now survive? We're waiting for that time when you will arrive, so that religion and faith can be revived. The world's become false, please come and make it true. Oh Mehdi, we're waiting for you.